Love, love.
Good morning. It's October the 14th, 2014, and making another little excerpt for my 44daysinheaven.com. And I want to tell you how I felt when I first went into the radiation oncology section of Riverside Hospital. I had no idea what I was faced. I had done a little research on the internet and saw a few videos on YouTube about what happened, but I was greeted by several nice ladies who were the technicians, and they took me to the dressing room, and I took off all my clothes, and I put on just a t-shirt and some special shorts so they would be able to get down and do the measurements for the radiation beam. And after a few minutes, they came and got me and took me back to the radiation room, and it was a large room that had big steel reinforced doors, so that when the radiation was taking place on me, it would not affect anybody else in the building, including the girls. And so they escorted me to the table. They laid me down on the table, and they had done a little tattoo right at the bottom of my belly button to aim the radiation beam for the prostate cancer. And they also had two little markers on either side of my body. And there was as I looked up in the ceiling, I saw a green light up there. And they would get kind of triangulate me around, and so the beam was going at my prostate and not on the rest of my body. And then they disappeared back into their little room, and they had asked me before then if I wanted to have what kind of music I wanted to have playing to make the time pass, because it was a 20 or 30 minute treatment every day. So I picked some slow mood music. I'm not real sure what I told them, but anyway, I laid down on the table, and I began thinking to myself, well, you know, I can spend some time with the Lord here during these next 44 days that I'm under radiation. So you know, I began to thinking about some verses I know and some songs I know, and kind of went on from there. The radiation machine would make a circumference of around my body, and so as to shoot the prostate gland in several different positions. It would stop 8 different times, and each time it would zap you anywhere between 8 and 22 times. So I got where I memorized the sequence, and after each sequence, they would move to the next position around there. And so it was interesting. It kind of occupied my mind and had the time pass by. And so after a few minutes of this, I said, well, why don't I just pray for people? Every time it zaps, I'll pray for some people that I know. And so I began to go through the list of people I knew in my Bible study and at my church, and friends that I had around the world, my email friends. And it was very interesting. As I went through this for a couple of days, the Lord kind of brought some verses to my mind. And one of the verses He brought to me was in Revelation, that it talked about casting their crowns before Him, talking about the 24 elders in the book of Revelation, and how they had cast these crowns. And then I began to think about a verse in Philippians where Paul told the Philippians, he said, "You are my joy and my crown." And I thought about all the people in my life that I was able to influence and to encourage in the last 50 plus years of my Christian life. And I began to call out before the Lord these guys and couples, ladies and men, their name before the Lord. And during this time, Valerie, my wife, had suffered a subarachnoid hemorrhage, and there was one day that all I did was just call her name out as this radiation machine went around me, and a couple of hundred times I called her name out before the Lord and asked the Lord to bring her out of this, because she was very seriously ill during that time, and ended up Riverside Hospital for 9 days and over at the Naval Hospital in Portsmouth for 5 days. It was a very, very interesting time as I spent time doing this. After the second day, I told them to turn the music off because I had my own music. And these girls kind of looked at me kind of crazy, said, "What's this crazy old man doing in there?" And because they could see me during the radiation time talking, and because I was very vocal about it during that time, talking to the Lord. And one day I even brought in my video machine, and I was taking my Olympus, can't even think of it, my camera, and I had a video of the camera, and I was shooting the radiation going around, and of course I didn't want to wiggle because I'd get the radiation beams off of the path, so I just kind of moved the camera around and showed it around, and it's kind of a neat video, and I have it saved on my computer, and I might put some excerpts of that onto this video. But anyway, as I continued on this, I just had a really delightful time, and I would think about a lot of songs that I knew down through the years. And I remember that one time I got the Baptist hymnal out, and I counted there were at least 100 songs in there that I knew at least the first verse to. And my mom and dad had raised me in a Baptist church in Washington, Indiana, and Vincennes, Indiana. And we went to church every Sunday. And I learned all these old hymns, and they were very, very precious to me. And I remember that when my parents told me about when I was 5 years old in 1945, and I was born in 1939, I received a little white Bible from the pastor of the church there in Washington, Indiana, First Baptist Church. And it was for 6 years of perfect attendance. And it was a little Bible about that big, and had the gilded leaves and all the pages all stuck together. And I carried that Bible with me to church all my life as I grew up as a teenager. And I was a young, middle-aged teenager when I went in the Air Force. I was actually 17 years old, almost 18, and on September the 4th, 1957, I joined the United States Air Force. We shipped off to Lackland Air Force Base, and I took that little white Bible with me. And I was 18 years old on the 20th of September, so my life continued on from there. And I remember many years later when in 1960, when I was in Germany, that I took that little white Bible out, and I had walked down the aisle of this Christian Servicemen Center, and I had given my life to the Lord. And I had that little white Bible with me, and I remember shortly after that, I wanted to go out and start telling other people about the Lord. And so I took that little white Bible, and I had to unstick all the pages. They were all stuck together because I never read it. I just carried it with me all the time, and I guess I figured osmosis would take place, and those Bible verses would just go into me. But in reality, on April 30th, 1960, when I walked down that aisle at the Christian Servicemen Center and gave my life to the Lord, I knew two verses in the Bible, John 3:16, and we all know that verse, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believed in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And the other verse I knew was Psalm 122:1. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. So here I was, a new Christian in Germany, away from my church, away from my family, my friends, and I began to develop a whole new set of friends, of whom I prayed for many of these guys down through the years that I'd known during that time that I was with the Lord on the radiation table. And there were 7 people that I was still in email contact with that were there on April 30th, 1960, the night I asked Jesus to come into my heart. And I'll tell you more about that story later on. So anyway, that's the chapter I'm working on right now, and we'll continue this next time.
Love